erleben. Wie Feuer und du kannst sie erlösen.
Schenk seinen Regen aus Mitleid und Güte. Ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Schenk seinen Regen aus
Leid und Güte.
Ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Mahaprabhu, Sankirtan ist dein Leben. Du tanzt und singst ihm voll Freude ergeben.
Mahaprabhus Kirtan ist dein Leben. Du tanzt und singst ihm voll Freude ergeben. Reiner Gottes Liebe, Shri Guru, ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Zu halten, in der Elend gestalten.
Auch dass dein Schüler jeden begrüße. Ich verehre deine Füße. Auch dass dein Schüler
jeden begrüße. Shri Guru, ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Preisen wie diese, ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Ich verehre deine Lotosfüße.
vertieft in Radha, was in ihren Namen Formen vertieft in Radha, was
Spiele
in ihren Namen Formen und Gefühle, kostest du ihre ewige Süße. Shivu, ich verehre deine Lotosfüße, kostest du
ihre ewige Süße. Shri Guru, ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Du gestaltest Fahren im Walde von Vrindavan. Damit das göttliche Pardon genieße. Shri Guru, ich verehre deine Lotosfüße. Bist der Höchste, bist auch du zu ehren. Schriften
und die weisen Lehren. Du bist dem Herrn, der am meisten
Geliebte,
Shivu,
ich verehre deine Lotosfüße.
Du bist dem Herrn,
der am meisten Geliebte. Shri Guru, ich verehre deine Lotusfüße.
Durch deine Gnade, durch Krishnas Segen, nimm abschutzlos und bitte deswegen. Durch deine Gnade erhalte ich Krishnas Segen, nimm abschutzlos
Und bete deswegen.
Was steht dein Lob aus meinem Herzen fließen? Ich feiere deine Füße.
Da steht dein Lob aus meinem Herzen fließe. Ich verehre deine Lotusfüße.
Die 10. Die Sonne blendet und die Nacht. Der Beste, der zweimal geboren erwacht. Die Sonne blendet und
Die Nacht,
der Beste,
der zweimal Geborenen erwacht.
mit dem Ziehen seiner Geweihten in Nadia seligsten
Kirtan verbreitet, mit ihm ziehen seine Geweihten in Nadia sie lieblichst Kirtan verbreiten.
Karte schwingt den Vivanger. Zum Tag der Karte ist uns Shri
Da ist die Medanga, Takte der Karte als ist Shri Goranga.
versunken in göttlicher Harmonie. Frohes Glückchen klingen zur Melodie.
Sunken in göttlicher Harmonie, Glöckchen klingen, Melodie.
Sing ruft den Schlafenden zu und mahnt sie. Sing ruft den Schlafenden zu und mahnt sie. Beschmückt eure Körper, verschlaft euer Leben. Schwore der heilige Name.
Schmückt eure Körper, verschlaft euer Leben. Euch wurde der heilige Name gegeben.
Wir wurden alle als Menschen geboren. Beschützt diese Gabe, sonst geht sie verloren.
Ihr wurdet alle als Menschen geboren. Beschützt diese Gabe, sonst geht sie verloren.
Bitte feiert doch den Sohn von Yashoda. Das Leben ist kurz und der Tod so nah. Bitte
Verehrt doch den Sohn von Yashoda. Das Leben ist kurz und der Tod so nah.
ein Tag verloren, schnell ist es zu spät.
Der Sonne geht ein Tag verloren, bald ist es zu spät.
Weiß den Namen des Herzens, ihm sei alle Ehre, vertreibt die Lethargie, weiß den Namen des Herzens,
Ihm sei alle Ehre, treibt die Lethargie, die Lehre.
das Leben ist endlich, und
ist endlich und voller Leiden. Schmerz und Enttäuschung kann man hier nicht vermeiden.
Nicht aufrichtig Zuflucht, Leben für Leben, mein heiligen Namen und sein Vergehen.
Nehmt aufrichtig Zuflucht, Leben für Leben, heiligen Namen, seid ihm ergeben.
Um alle zu segnen, der neben sich schließt, der heilige Name soll ihn beschützen. Um alle zu segnen, der neben sich schließt,
Der heilige Name
Name so lieblich und süß. Am Himmel des Herzens erstrahlt er so hell. Wissen, Leid und Dunkelheit vergehen sehr schnell. Am Himmel des Herzens erstrahlt er so schnell. Wissen, Leid und Dunkelheit vergehen dann sehr schnell. So kostet den Nektar von Krishnas Namen, pflanzt einen unvergleichlichen Samen. Kostet den Nektar
von Krishnas Namen, er pflanzt ein.
unvergleichlichen Samen. In diese Welt von Geburt und Tod, erfreut so die Seele von Bhakti hinein. In diese
Welt von Geburt und Tod, freut so die Seele von Bhakti Vinod.
Wacht auf schlafende Seelen, ruft Shri Gauranga laut.
Wacht auf, schlafende Seelen, ruft Shri Gauranga laut.
Ihr schlaft im Schoße der Hexentäuschung, die euch die Zeit des Lebens raubt. Ihr schlaft im Schoße der Hexentäuschung, die euch die Zeit des Lebens raubt. Oh, ich werde dich verehren, mit diesem Wunsch wurde ihr geboren.
O mein Herr, ich werde dich verehren, mit diesem Wunsch wurdet ihr geboren.
Nun aber habt ihr ihn vergessen und euch in Unwissenheit verloren. Nun aber habt ihr ihn vergessen und euch in Unwissenheit verloren. Um euch zu retten, stieg ich hernieder aus dieser Welt
gefleht. Er empfing den heiligen Namen, das wunderbare große Gebet. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari bol, Hari bol, Hari bol, Gaura Hari bol. Jaya Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai, Gaura Nitai. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Subhadra, Sudarshana. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Radha Jaya Radha Namoda, Radha Namoda, Radha Namoda, Jaya Radha Namoda. Radha Vrindavan Chanda, Radha Vrindavan Chanda, Radha Vrindavan Chanda, Radha Vrindavan Chanda. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Haribo. Pandava nirjal ekadasi ki jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Chila Bhakti Rakakshira Deva Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachastar Satasisimat Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachastar Satasisimat Shila Gokisharas Bhavaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachastar Satasisimat Shila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Mahashai Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachastar Satasisimat Srila Jagannathas Bhavaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Shila Bhakti Bimalahari Jan Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Bhakti Balabtirtha Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Srila Bhakti Daita Madhava Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Lila Pavishtam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivraja Kachasta Satasisimat Shila Gopananda Pan Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namachai Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Premasa Gosi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Navandam Ki Jai. Madhura Dham Ki Jai. Jaganapuri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai. Sri Pandava Nirjal Ekadasi Dwarkadam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Vinda Pariva Acharya Vinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Haribol. Oh, das Auge fürcht. Ja.
Welche Kamera hast du denn an? Die zu dir zeigt oder? Nee, die nach dem Typ. Die nach vorne.
Das ist
Lass es
sein.
Muss mal richtig ein.
Lass es sein.
Okay. Dann muss ich richtig drin. Ah, Krishna. So geht's doch.
Oh, Govinda, Govinda. Govinda Gopal. So, Pandava Nirjal Ekadasi. Ich geb's dir heute.
Entschuldigung.
Da waren die Lesezeichen.
Ja, super.
Yes. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu und seine Pastimes. Chaitanya Bhagavat is full of nectar. The last thing I was reading was the marriage of Nimai and Lakshmi Priya. It was a very, very happy occasion. Now the next chapter is Nimai Pandit meets Ishwarapuri. All glories to Sri Gaurachandra, the Supreme Lord of all lords. His useful pastimes as a scholar reveal his attraction for learning. He stayed in Navadvip, but he concealed his inner identity. The best of the Brahmanas, Gaurachandra, spent all his younger day pursuing his studies. His handsome usefulness could defeat the beauty of millions upon millions of cupids. Every limb of his transcendental body was a perfection of beauty. His arms extended down to his knees, and his exquisite eyes were like lotus petals. His attractive lips were red, as if from chewing betel, and he was always dressed in fine, majestic clothes. Ever in a happy mood, he walked amidst his colleagues and his disciples, entertaining them with his sparkling wit. He was their unquestioned leader on the strength of his superior intelligence and learning. He roamed all over Navadvip carrying his books as if holding Saraswati Devi, the goddess of learning, within his palms, for he is the Supreme Lord of the entire cosmic manifestation. No scholar in Navadvip dared to find faults in his dissertations. Only the Brahmana Gangadas Pandit, a very pious and fortunate soul, was capable of discussing with the Lord. The different categories of people in Navadvip saw Mahaprabhu in their own way. The materialistic fruitive workers who are attached to family and home saw him as the Lord and experienced an inexplicable wonder. How remarkable that every house he graces should always have prosperity, they exclaimed. The ladies saw him as the most attractive Cupid. However, in the hearts of the atheists, he struck fear as the god of death. The scholars were convinced that Brihaspati, the most learned priest of the demigods, had taken birth upon earth. Nevertheless, the Vaishnavas were seriously concerned about Gauranga and his behavior. He is endowed with such sublime physical beauty, they sadly commented, yet he shows no attraction for Lord Krishna. What will all his learning and erudition bring him except years of wasted time? The Vaishnavas spoke in this manner because they were bewildered by the internal potency of the Lord. Also, they saw the Supreme Lord in person before them. They could not recognize him. Once a Vaishnava met the Lord and inquired, "What is the use of wasting your time in the pursuit of material knowledge?" The Lord smiled at the concern of his devotee and replied, "Truly, it is my great fortune that you are instructing me to accept the path of devotional service." These were some of the exchanges of mellows between the Supreme Lord and the devotees. Yet, even the devotees, what to speak of ordinary men, could not recognize the Lord as he unfolded his pastime in the mood of a scholar. Navadvip was the seat of learning in those days, and students and scholars came there from all over. There were many pure Vaishnava devotees amongst them, especially from Chattagrama, who had come to live near the bank of the Ganga. By the Lord's desires, all these Vaishnava devotees had assembled in Navadvip. Abandoning all physical and material pleasures, they were fully attached to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. They met daily, studied together, and in solitude, away from the bustle of materialistic life, they discussed the pastimes of Lord Govinda. Sri Mukunda was especially loved by all the Vaishnavas because he could melt everyone's heart with his beautiful singing. Towards evening, the devotees would gather in Sri Acharya's house, and when Mukunda would sing devotional service to Lord Krishna, the devotees would lose their composures. Some would cry, some would laugh loudly, and still others would dance. Some lost control of themselves and their clothing and would roll on the ground, feeling great ecstasy. Some chanted loudly, as if roaring like lions, and others clapped their fellow devotees loudly upon their backs. Still others simply touched the feet of Sri Mukunda. The whole place became transformed into a most blissful scene, and all the Vaishnavas forgot their previous sufferings. The Supreme Lord Gaura Sundara was always pleased with Mukunda. Whenever he saw Mukunda, he would hurry forward to meet him. Nimai would present Mukunda with problems, and Mukunda would earnestly try to explain them. However, the Lord would immediately reply that Mukunda's arguments were all wrong, and inevitably an argument would ensue. Mukunda had become a respected scholar by such meetings with the Lord, and he would argue with the Lord, presenting pros and cons to establish the arguments. Of course, the Supreme Lord, recognized his devotees and enjoyed such exchanges. Sri Chaitanya also harasses Srivas in the same manner whenever he saw him. So most of the Vaishnavas tried to avoid meeting the Lord, which simply wasted their time in useless sophistry and argument. The Vaishnavas were fully detached from material pleasure, being immersed in love of Krishna. Hence, they found the interest in any topic other than Krishna. They found no interest in any topic other than Krishna consciousness. They were uninspired to argue with the Lord on logic or other such material topics. In any case, the interaction invariably ended with the Lord making fun of them. Therefore, when one of them spotted the Lord out and about, he would change the direction, keep his distance. They enjoyed only Krishna-conscious topics, yet whenever the Lord met them, he would only ask questions on logic and other material subjects. One day Chaitanya was walking down the main street with some other students. Mukunda happened to be coming that way at the same time, going for the daily bath in the river. Seeing the Lord from a distance, Mukunda quickly turned away. The Lord saw Mukunda sneak away, and he asked his servant Govinda, "Why has this fellow run away upon seeing me?" "Dear learned Brahmanas, I don't know why he has gone away," said Govinda. "Maybe he has some other work." "I know why he has run away," said Gauranga. "He does not like to talk about mundane subject matters. This fellow only studies devotional scriptures, while I juggle with astrology, theology, verb rules, and grammar. Thus, because I do not talk about Krishna, he has avoided me." Using harsh terms, he pretended to slander Mukunda, but he was actually very pleased with him. However, he simultaneously cryptically revealed his own supreme identity. The Lord said, "All right, Mukunda, we will see how long you can avoid being caught by me. Do you think you can escape me by some trick like running away?" The Lord smiled. Let me catch you another day when I have finished my studies, and you will see the Vaishnava that I am. I will become such a Vaishnava devoted that Brahma and Shiva will come, stand and wait patiently at my doorsteps. Yet, my dear brother, now hear from me carefully. I will become the most famous and extraordinary Vaishnava. Today, those who now run away at the sight of me tomorrow will sing of my qualities and glories. After his speech, the Lord smiled brightly and left for home with all his joyful disciples. Who can appreciate that most pleasurable pastimes of Sri Vishwambara, unless the Lord himself reveals them within one's heart? However, while the devotees in Navadvip displayed wonderful devotional qualities, the rest of the residents were mad after wealth, sons, and others such temporary material opulences. If they heard the chanting of the Lord's holy name, they taunted and blasphemed the devotees, saying, "They are singing only with the hope of filling their bellies." Other atheist persons remarked, "These people are avoiding the cultivation of knowledge, preferring to dance in the road like crazy fellows. What sort of behavior is that?" Still another said, "How much of the Bhagavata and other scriptures have they read that they dance and cry all the time? I have never found such thing in the scriptures. Is this the devotional goal? Is this their devotional path? This Srivas Pandit and his three brothers will not even allow us to sleep after a good meal. I have asked them, is there no spiritual benefit from chanting the name of Krishna softly, or is it only by howling and dancing that some special benefit is derived? In this matter, the atheists hurled offenses at the Vaishnavas whenever they saw them. By hearing their abusive words, the Vaishnavas were distressed and would lament for the sorry state of the people in general. Tearfully, the devotees would take shelter of Sri Krishna and ardently call out his holy name. O Lord, how long before all this suffering is eradicated from the world, they prayed. Dear Krishna Chandra, please reveal yourself in the sinful material world. At the house of Advaita Acharya, the Vaishnavas described the insults they had received from atheists of the Navadvip community. Advaita Acharya would hardly tolerate insults to his devotees and grew enraged like an incarnation of Lord Rudra, the destroyer of the material world. He roared furiously, "I will destroy everyone. My lord, the carrier of the Sudarshan disc, will soon appear here in Nadia, and then everyone will see what he can do. I shall make the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna appear in person before the eyes of all and report all these offenses directly to my Lord. Only then will the persons known as Advaita be worthy of being called the servants of Sri Krishna. My dear brothers, please remain patient a little longer. Then here in Nadia itself you shall personally see Krishna as he revealed his wonderful pastimes." Hearing the encouraging words of Sri Advaita Acharya instilled new lives into the hearts of the Vaishnavas. They forgot their distressed condition and altogether began chanting the holy names of the Lord Sri Krishna. Like we are lamenting about the current state of the world. We are talking about, oh, this is hopeless. When will anybody become Krishna conscious? And we are chanting and we are doing, this is so similar. No? And The Lord is here, the holy name is here, but who knows what's the next chapter in the divine Leela. Jubilantly singing the all-auspicious names of Sri Krishna with Sri Advaita, the devotees became overwhelmed, blissfully intoxicated by this most nectarian sweet sound. The caustic remarks of the atheists faded far away from their thoughts, as for them Navadvip became filled with the greatest and most sublime ecstasy. Meanwhile, Srinimai Pandita continued his education happily and was an ever-increasing source of pleasure for Sachimata. Around that time, Sri Ishvara Puri came to Navadvip. Sri Ishvara Chandra Puri came to Navadvip, unobstructively disguised as an ekadasi sannyasi of the impersonal school. However, he was a magnanimous personality, always absorbed in tasting the nectar love of Sri Krishna. He was extremely dear to Sri Krishna and compassionate towards all. Wearing such attire, no one could easily recognize him. However, one day, by the arrangement of Providence, Ishvara Puri went to the house of Sri Advaita Acharya. The Acharya was quite busy performing his puja at that time, and Ishvara Chandra sat humbly in the courtyard near Sri Advaita Prabhu. The purity of a Vaishnava gives him an effulgence that cannot be hidden, certainly not from other Vaishnavas. And so Advaita Acharya Prabhu looked repeatedly. Advaita could immediately understand that the person sitting before him was no ordinary sannyasi, but must be a pure Vaishnava. At last, Acharya Prabhu addressed Ishvara Puri respectfully. Dear saintly person, who are you? I have the feeling that you're actually a Vaishnava sannyasi. I am lower than a Sudra, the fourth class person, replied Ishvara Chandra Puri. I have come here simply to see your lotus feet. Mukunda, recognizing the symptoms of such a pure devotee, there in the courtyard spontaneously broke into a song about Sri Krishna with great ecstatic devotion. Hearing the beautiful singing of Sri Mukunda, Ishvara Puri fell to the ground. Incessant tears poured from his eyes, while repeated and increasingly bursts of devotional love and ecstasy overcame him. Advaita Acharya was startled and quickly drew Ishvara Chandra into his arms. Soon he also was bathed in the tears of the saint. Both were swept away by ecstatic waves of love for Sri Krishna and were unable to control their ever-increasing spiritual emotions. Inspired by the scene, Mukunda sang appropriate shlokas, verses, one after another. The assembled Vaishnavas were astonished to see such a display of intense spiritual emotion, and their hearts filled with divine happiness. Moments later, when the devotees learned that the humble sannyasi was actually Sri Ishvara Chandra Puri, they broke into a spontaneous kirtana, overjoyed that such a great devotee was in their presence. In this humble way, Sri Ishvara Puri wandered around Navadvip in disguise, unrecognized by all. One day, Sri Gaurachandra was returning from home after teaching some students, and by divine arrangement, he saw Ishvara Chandra Puri along the way. Recognizing his servant and dear devotee, the Lord immediately offered him obeisances with the greatest respect. Sri Vishvambara unsurpassed beauty was impossible to describe, and he was a perfect personality in all respects, a reservoir of all good qualities. No one could understand his innermost feelings, nor knew his real identity. Yet, everyone regarded him with the greatest awe and respect. Ishwarapuri Chanda glanced at the Lord's feature and knew immediately that Nimai was a grave and sublime transcendental personality. What is your name, O most learned Brahmana? asked Sri Puri. What books are you carrying? What do you teach, and where is your place of residence? Some of the students answered for their teacher. He's Nimai Pandit. Sri Ishwarapuri joyfully responded, Oh, so you are Nimai. The pleasure of Sri Ishwara Chanda was quite apparent. The Lord humbly invited him to accept prasadam at his house and then respectfully brought Sri Puri to his house. Sachimata prepared a wonderful feast and offered it to Lord Krishna. Sri Puri accepted the Mahaprasadam and afterwards sat in the temple room. Sri Ishwara Puri then began to narrate the wonderful qualities and pastimes of Sri Krishna. At one stage, he fell silent, overcome by the ecstatic emotion of transcendental love, and was thus unable to speak any further. Nimai and everyone else experienced wonderful joy as the nectar of ecstatic devotional mellows flowed profusely from Sri Puri in their company. Sri Puri would never manifest these spiritual emotions in the presence of the unfortunate materialists. Sri Ishvara then stayed in the house of Gopinath Acharya in Navadvip for several months. The hearts of the Vaishnavas were light with joy because of his association, and the Lord himself visited Sri Puri daily. Seeing his tears of love for Lord Krishna, Sri Gadadhar Pandit was also well loved by all the Vaishnava community. From his childhood, Gadadhar was completely detached from worldly life. Seeing his devotion, Ishwara Chandra Puri also favored and loved Sri Gadadhar. In his association, Sri Puripad would have Gadadhar read a book named Krishna Lilamrita, which he had composed himself. He would then affectionately explain the different esoteric truths contained therein to the young Gadadhar. Every evening after studying and teaching, Lord Chaitanya visited Ishwara Puri to offer his respectful obeisances. Ishwara Puri was always glad to see Nimai, and also he did not know that Nimai was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His love and affection for him flew unrestrainedly. He spoke affectionately to the Lord. I know that you are a great scholar. I have written a book about the nature of Sri Krishna. I would like you to go through it and find the mistakes. That would please me very much. This is a description of Lord Krishna by a pure devotee, replied Nimai. Whoever finds fault with the devotee's description of Sri Krishna is a sinful offender. Sri Krishna is always pleased by the poetry of his pure devotees, even if it might be imperfect grammatically. An ignorant person, while offering obeisance in the temple, might make a grammatical mistake by saying Vaishnaya, whereas an educated, sober person would use the proper form of addressing Lord Krishna, which is Vaishnave. However, the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, accepts both their obeisance when offered with devotion. The Supreme Lord, Sri Janardhan, is not impressed with mere learning, but he is supplicated by the inner mood of surrender of the living entities. The uneducated may use the incorrect form Vaishnaya Namo, and that not the correct Vaishnave Namo, as used by the scholars. But the Lord sees the devotion and on the basis rewards the result. Whoever looks for faults in your writings is actually at fault himself, because the writings are in fact meant only for the pleasure of Sri Krishna, who is always fully satisfied by the writings of this pure devotee. Whatever you have written is an expression of your love for Krishna, who has the audacity to find some discrepancy in it. Ishwarachandra Puri felt ecstasy surge through the entire body upon hearing the explanation of Nimai Pandit, which was like a shower of nectar. Yet Sri Puri affectionately persisted. I know you wish to be uncritical, but in my work there may be some types of errors. Kindly point them out to me. You will not be at fault for doing so. After this discussion, Sri Puri and Nimai Pandit would sit together for a couple of hours daily and consider the book. One day, Nimai Pandit apparently detected a fault in one of Ishwara Puri's poems, commenting that the use of a particular verb root was inaccurate. Here should be a different verb root, not the atmanepadi form as you have used, said the Lord. After the discussion, Nimai went home, and Ishwara Puri, who was an erudite scholar in all the scriptures and certainly a pandit in grammar, considered Nimai's proposals. He enjoyed analyzing intellectual topics, and after Nimai left, he considered Nimai's comment from various aspects and compared it with many Shastri conclusions. When Nimai came to see him the next day, Sri Puri gave his conclusion. That verb root you consider to be wrong is actually correct, as I have used it. It should not be the parasmaipadi form as you suggested yesterday. Actually, the atmanepadi form is correct. Hearing the analysis, the Lord had to agree and found no further faults. Within his heart, he felt most satisfied that his devotee servant had been victorious over himself. All the Vedic scriptures confirm that the Lord, by his magnanimous nature, always desires to increase the name, fame, and victory of his devotees, even at the cost of himself. For the next few months, the two great Pandita, Ishwara Puri and Sri Gaurachandra, fully absorbed in their scholastic pastimes, enjoyed every moment of their discussion and pastimes. However, Ishwarachandra could never remain long in one place. The restlessness of ecstatic devotion love always tugged at his heart. Thus, he left for Sri Navadvip and set out to travel widely on pilgrimage, purifying the world, the earth. Whoever is fortunate enough to attentively hear these wonderful pastimes, narrations about Ishwarachandra Puri, is immediately transported to the place where the lotus feet of Lord Krishna are ever offering shelter and mercy. Sri Madhavendra Puri, being fully satisfied with his disciple, had bestowed ecstatic love of Sri Krishna upon Sri Ishwara Puri. By the unlimited mercy of Sri Krishna, Ishwarachandra Puri had received the complete shelter of his spiritual master, Sri Madhavendra Puri, and thus he roamed everywhere freely, unconcerned and fully blissful. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Nityananda, Chanda are my life and soul. I, Vrindavan Das Thakur, humbly offer my song at the lotus feet. Jaya Radhe Jaya Krishna Jaya Vrindavan, Sri Govinda Gopinatha Madana Mohan, Sri Gauranga Nityananda. These are the pastimes of the Lord in Navadvip before he revealed his identity. Only after he meets Ishwara Puri again in Gaya is it's a very beautiful description of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And if we don't take time to read those books, we are losing out. We are losing out a great nectar contribution given to us by our acharyas. There's so much nectar to be read and to be contemplated. It is very, very amazing. And the feelings of the devotees, the ecstasies, the pains and pleasures, only Krishna can understand what he's doing here in this world. One of my godbrothers, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, he just left his body a few days ago. And he did so after just opening his temple in Rohini and then opening another one somewhere in the north of India. And on that last one, he just left the body. And then he was brought to Vrindavan, and I don't know, Vrindavan filled with devotees coming for his departure. So the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada is an extension of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. Undeniable. It's undeniable. And one has to look closely, one has to focus and see what Krishna is doing through his devotees. Srila Prabhupada wasn't even appreciated by his godbrothers. I mean, yes, they appreciated his poems and like that when he was a Grihastha. But when he started his mission, many of his godbrothers, they couldn't fathom it, that this was really a new phase of revelation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So here from the book we can see even Lord Chaitanya wasn't recognized. He was actually playing around with his devotees, no? Arguing, and sometimes he would defeat them. And then after they were defeated, he re-established their argument, defeating himself. And they were just like, huh? So, showing, I mean, it's very interesting how Gauranga Mahaprabhu exhibited the greatest learning capacity and scholarship, and then he just said, chant Hare Krishna, it's all worth nothing. When he was interviewed by Prakashananda Saraswati in Varanasi, why you always chant and dance with your followers? What kind of a process is this? Then he said, my Gurudev, Ishwara Puri, he considered that I'm not very intelligent. So he said, if you just chant this holy name, that will be the best for you. After being the great scholar, no?
Wasn't it Keshava Bharati?
No, Keshava Bharati gave sannyas.
See, yeah, but wasn't it he that he told that to Mahaprabhu as a sannyasi?
No.
No?
When should he have asked that?
No, because Ishwara Puri has had, yeah, as we were reading now, they had these high-class intellectual talks about philosophy and all that stuff. So, and maybe I'm remembering just false, but I thought that Keshava Bharati was telling this to Mahaprabhu as his sannyas sadhana, that he is not able to.
Oh, you mean that it was Keshava Bharati who told him to chant?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. Yes, you're right. Actually, the exact exchange I can't remember either, but basically.
Because normally the sannyasis are of this order where he took sannyas from, they are always studying Shastra, meditating, and not dancing around and chanting.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Jai Prabhupada.